Hello and welcome back to SportNation. My name's Gabby Partington.
And I'm Tom Gooday.
And today we'll be talking tennis as the final slam of the season bounces upon us.
See what you've done.
There, smashed it.
Yeah,
Nadal's obviously coming into the tournament as world number one. But do you think he'll be the one to win the tournament?
He is the player to beat. He is looking very good at the moment. Obviously last year struggled with injury, but he's back now looking fresh, serving well, moving well. He just looks very strong. I think Nadal and Feds are the two people. They're going to be the ones to beat. I do like the look of Feds. Obviously, he's won 2 majors already this year. Nadal's got 1. I think I'm edging towards Feds more than Nadal. I am.
Yeah, and obviously there's been more injuries as well. There's been Raonic, who's just recently withdrew, defending champion Wawrinka, Djokovic, and your favourite Nishikori.
That's his name. So I got it right this time. Yeah, there's loads of people missing. And I think that makes it more likely that either Feds or Nadal are going to win it. Like Djokovic, obviously he was in it. He loves playing at the US Open, one of his favourites. But I really do think Feds is the person to beat.
But do you think any of the young guns may be getting away? Do you think maybe the likes of Kyrgios, there's obviously Dimitrov, who's a little bit older, and then the German Zverev, Zverev?
I think they're up and coming. I think they're still 1 or 2 years away from really challenging, but they are starting to look good. Like Zverev, I think you had a very good stat for us about Zverev.
They did. He's actually won 2 Masters this year.
Yeah.
And I think no one actually outside the big top 4 has won that since a decade ago.
So he's obviously...
He's the man.
He is the man. And he recently won one of the Masters against Feds, so he knows he can beat him. The challenge with the young guns is doing it over 5 sets across 2 weeks in a Grand Slam. That's the hardest thing. Like obviously the big 4 are used to being in the tournament at the later stages, playing longer games.
They've obviously got more mental preparation and
exactly.
Well, haven't they? But they do have the momentum. So obviously Dimitrov has just won Cincinnati.
Yep.
And then, like you said, Zverev has just won Rogers Cup.
Yep.
So obviously they've got momentum to come into the US Open and smash it.
Oh God, here she is.
Sorry, I recycled the joke.
Oh, that's fine. We're still there. We're still there. I think you're right. They will. I think they'll get to the later stages. They'll definitely be getting to the quarterfinals, semi-finals. But I think they're still 1 or 2 years away from really probably getting all of their first slams. Yeah.
And let's talk a bit about Murray, because everyone seems to forget about him. He was obviously world number 1 last year, but now Nadal's taken over him for that.
He has.
How do you think he'll do? He's obviously hasn't been as fit as he usually is.
Yeah.
He hasn't really been playing. He hasn't had any hard court practice. Do you think he'll come in and do what Federer did when he came into the Australian Open?
It's tough. Like Federer, the thing is, the way that Murray plays is so different to Federer. Murray relies on being the fittest, the strongest, and just running down as many balls as he can. Feds just looks like he could play in his slippers with a cigar. He's so good. I think Murray's a hard one to call. Like, he could come into it and have been really well rested, come in and smash it. But I still think he doesn't look like he's moving right. And I think like if your hip's not right as a tennis player, like you're using it all the time, like it's gonna.
He's had loads of things wrong with him. He had the flu. He's had shingles.
Oh, he can't use man flu.
He has.
Andy Murray, don't use. No, come on. I have to go to work when I've got man flu. You've got to go and play tennis.
His actual mum said to him he should have a rest and not actually participate in the US Open.
Julie Murray.
He should take his own mum's advice.
Julie Murray has to write a note for him to get him out of the tournament.
Son, do not play.
Yeah, he's not allowed to play. Forgot his PE kit. And he's had the sniffles.
He hasn't listened to her though.
No. He's a rebel, isn't he?
He's in it to win it. He is.
Yeah, I still think he's going to struggle just because he hasn't played as many matches. He won't be as fresh. He won't be as well practiced, and
he needs the rhythm, and he really does depend on practicing matches and playing a lot of competitive games, and he hasn't had that practice. So I think he may struggle.
I got to admit, I do agree with you.
And what about women's tennis? Let's talk about that. Obviously, Serena's not in the running, so that leaves the draw open for everyone else to win.
Yeah,
or potentially get to the final.
It really does, and obviously, I think the person, the lady to beat is Muguruza. She was so good at Wimbledon. I actually watched her in a couple of matches, and she was unreal. Will and I actually called it earlier in the tournament that we thought she was going to win it at Wimbledon. she looks so good. I think she won the Cincinnati as well. So like she's coming into it. She's won Wimbledon. She's won Cincinnati. She's the person to beat at the moment.
What about Konta? She obviously did well in Wimbledon. Do you think she'll do equally or better than she did at Wimbledon?
I think Konta was kind of G'd on by her home fans a little bit. So I think Wimbledon is, she likes playing on grass. She obviously had the Wimbledon crowd with her. It's a lot harder going to the US when you haven't got as many people cheering you on. People get on your back, especially if you're playing like another American. Like it's going to be tough. I think she may get to the latter stages, maybe a quarter-final.
But on the topic of crowd, obviously Sharapova's back after a 15-month drug ban. Do you think the crowd will be behind her, or do you think, obviously, Sharapova's a favourite amongst that crowd, but apart from the noises that she makes?
Yeah, well, I think that's why she's a favourite amongst quite a few of the crowd.
Just the men.
Yeah. So I think they'll embrace her. Like, she's obviously one of the faces of women's tennis. She's gonna be competing. Like, if she gets through the first few rounds, they're the hardest ones because she hasn't had as much practice, hasn't played as many tournaments as the others. If she gets through those few, I think I could see her getting quite far. I think it's just the biggest thing with this is, should she actually be getting a wild card? Like, that's the biggest thing. She hasn't, like you say, 15-month drug ban. Should she have been made to qualify? I personally think yes. Just to kind of skip all of those 3 or 4 rounds of qualifying, come straight in, for me, isn't really right. But I do think, that being said, she likes playing in the US Open. I think she actually grew up playing quite a lot of tennis in the US.
Yeah, she did.
So that's kind of like a second home or a nominated home. So I think the crowd will get behind her. I think she'll have a bit of a following.
I agree. So who are your actual predictions? Who do you think will take the crown then?
So in the men's game, I'm going for my man Feds. The guy's like a fine wine.
He is the king.
He is the king. And I just love the fact that he looks so good doing it. I walk up the stairs and I look ruffled. Roger Federer plays 5 sets for 3 hours against some of the best tennis players in the world, and he looks like he hasn't.
It's just his mental game. His mental game is so strong. He just doesn't. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't give anything away, and his style of play is so calm and relaxed. He's just a gentleman on court.
Yeah, he's such a gent as well. That's you can't. Everyone loves him.
I think you've got a bit of a man crush.
I've got a man crush on Federer. I really have. And then the women's, I think Muguruza. I think she's the one to beat. She's being coached by Conchita Martinez now. Got a load of experience, and I think she's taken her game to the next level. So Muguruza and Feds for me.
Good. I'm going for Kyrgios, I think. He's my favourite.
But that's
the bad man. So the opposite end of the spectrum. You've got the gentleman and the bad man on the court. I'm going for that.
But you've got a little soft spot for him as well, haven't you?
A little bit. He's a bit young again.
Okay.
He's a bit young for me. And that's it for the US Open. Thanks for watching, and we'll chat to you soon. Bye.
Goodbye.